All right, let's jump into it. I really want to start with the performance mentality. This is a tremendous question. How do you deal with the pressure to perform and not to be too worked base? So let's start with that question. I'll toss it to Brother Marco Flores. How do you deal with the performance mentality? For those of you that don't maybe have never heard that phrase before, it basically means you're trying to perform your way into ministry. You're trying to perform your way into a relationship with God, and that will cause you to do a lot of things in the flesh. So how do you defeat this drive, this desire, and maybe even Brother Flores, where does that come from sometimes, and how do you break free from that?
Well, that's, am I on? Can y'all hear me?
They'll turn you up.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's been one of my biggest struggles. Performance, accomplishment, academia, straight A's. I've had none of that in my life. And so coming into ministry, especially when you're around a place where the culture of ministry is performance-based, it can be very hard to not fall into that trap. And I think that performance-based comes out of us, out of the nature of possibly some uncertainty, insecurity about ourselves, maybe shame, if I could say it that way. There's this, like when a file gets corrupted in your floppy disk. Does anybody know what a floppy disk is? I thought so. We got one person over there. That was before thumb drives. From the 90s, I think, IBM. Okay. I just dated myself. When a file gets corrupted, right? You try to bring it up, and it's all. Everybody ever try to open up a document on Word, and everything's all scattered all over the place. It's like it's supposed to have like a logo or something, and it's not but numbers. And I feel like when there's unsettled wounds or shame and things that are not healed in your spirit, and you try to go into ministry, everything's just kind of scattered, and you find yourself trying to be like somebody that you really admire, that you see. And I preached not too long ago at church about casting down imaginations, everything that exalted itself against the knowledge of God. Well, the knowledge of God. What is the will of God for your life? What are you supposed to be doing? What is your calling? What is your gifting? So then there are these imaginations that come out of shame, for me, come out of insecurity, uncertainty. You doubt yourself, you second guess yourself. But you see somebody that kind of is moving in what you feel God has called you to, and you find yourself trying to mimic what they're doing. You find yourself trying to do what they're doing, and it's not you, right? And it's for example, I'm known for being very transparent, so I'm going to be. There was a time where I wanted to be like this with Bishop Wright because I had father wounds, and I saw him as the most perfect man ever. Never did I have fellowship. I never talked to him, but I had this. He was like, there was an image of him. And it was because I had father wounds that weren't healed. When those father wounds were healed and I saw Bishop Bright for what he is in the kingdom, at a distance, sir. Yes, sir. Because I understood that he's not that to me. And I understood that thing that he was projecting was the love of the Father, that we would step and walk into it. And so I quit looking at him that way and was able to really look at him for what he is in the kingdom, right? This office, this gifting that he operates in. And so for me, the trap to what's the term here again? Performance mentality. A lot of times for me, it came through stuff that was unsettled in me, unhealed wounds. And I think that once you deal with that you start to really remove the emotion of what you think you're supposed to be, what you know you are, and you just go into it. You just go into it, and you are who you are, and you don't apologize to anybody for being what you are. I hope that's another omelet.
It's very good. Does anyone want to add to that?
I agree with everything you just said. In my words, sonship, the revelation of sonship releases you from performance-based Christianity. And that is something God wants to bring everybody to, is a revelation of sonship. I know there's some females in here, but you're a son. And all the guys are the bride. So, but sonship, performance Christianity is exhausting. It is the most fellowship is exhausting. Coming to church is exhausting. Trying to do anything for God is exhausting. You end up being empty. The accolades of people are never enough. It doesn't matter how many people praise you, because you can go far in performance-based Christianity. But it doesn't matter how many people praise you or pat you on the back, something is always missing. But if nobody knows your name and Jesus is patting you on the back, you have everything. It's the difference between Martha and Mary. Martha is performance, Mary is relationship. And Martha's ticked because she's like, we got some stuff to do. Get that lazy thing up and tell her to come help me. I'm busy. Jesus looks at Martha and says, you're cumbered about. Cumbered is a King James word for distracted. You're careful and troubled. You're anxious, you're troubled. Why? Because you're distracted. What was she distracted from? She was doing the work of God. There's people there. She's feeding them. What is she distracted from? She's distracted from relationship. She's distracted from the presence of Jesus. So finding the presence of Jesus, the revelation of sonship that heals those wounds, releases you from performance mentality. And then when you get his approval and you know you have his approval, your performance goes to a whole different level because the fear is gone. So
I'm going to kind of talk about it a little bit from another angle. It's something that I've experienced because I feel like Brother Flores commented on when you have performance mentality from a wound and you kind of have to prove to others that you can perform in ministry or whatnot. But the type that I feel like I had to struggle with or kind of let the Lord help me with in my life is performance mentality, aka perfectionism, which can kind of work the same way. It's a little bit different, but I expected too much of myself, and because of that, I was paralyzed to do anything because I didn't want to fail, because I couldn't face myself if I failed. So that is a big thing that can hold up a lot of, I don't know if some of the men struggle with this, but a lot of women from going into ministry and preaching and teaching or whatever the Lord is calling you, is that you expect so much of yourself, you don't want to fail, and you don't, basically you cannot face failure for yourself, for your own purposes. But the Lord helped me with that because I was struggling with that personally, and he started speaking to me about control and how it really was that I wanted to stay in control of everything, the way he flowed through me, the way that it turned out after I ministered. And that is a control problem, and he's not going to flow through me like that when I'm trying to, keep the control. So when I learned to submit that to God, and I'm still learning, because obviously I'm probably going to get off this thing and still wonder, did I do a good job on that panel today? But I am here because I am still working through that, and God wants to use all of you, and don't put expectations on yourself, because whether or not you think it's good, it doesn't matter. We're here to please God. We're here to do what he wants, and he can do a way better job than I can do or you can do. So let's just let him flow through us and not worry about controlling it.